The big thing to remember is caveat emptor. You need to take your time to evaluate the programs very closely before spending your hard-earned money. Hi, and welcome to the Get Into Cloud podcast. My name is Coin. Today we're going to talk about top 10 bootcamp red flags, the things you need to look out for when considering a bootcamp that you would like to utilize to learn more about cloud technologies. The first thing we need to do is align on the definition. What is a bootcamp? What isn't a bootcamp? I'm not talking about training content. So if you have Udemy videos or learning pathways on a cloud guru or some of these other kinds of videos, or following some YouTube trainings or things like that, where you're learning about cloud concepts, a boot camp in this sense is really akin to the military definition of a boot camp. It is an in-person, typically in-person, intensive and accelerated training that it's intended to get you ready for whatever that next phase is. In the military, it's to take someone who maybe has no familiarity with the military and to get them ready to be a soldier. With a technical boot camp, it's really about taking someone who might have very little exposure or experience in the world of cloud or IT and get them ready to get that first cloud role. You might think of it as a shortcut, but really it's not. You're going to do the amount of work that you might do over a longer process and try to condense it down. And you'll notice I also mentioned in person. Pre-COVID, boot camps would oftentimes be on a campus somewhere. It might be in person, you might be in all-day sessions. More typically today, boot camps are virtual. They're virtual classes over Zoom or some other kind of scenario in that case. So a boot camp is really more about instructor-led training that's intensive and intended to accelerate your learning about cloud technologies, or really whatever the boot camp is about. You might even ask yourself, well, why not college? Why should I try a boot camp instead of going down the college route? And the truth is that I went to college. That was my pathway into IT. And I went to college because my parents hadn't gone to college, and I was good in school, and they wanted me to be the first in our family to go to college. I come from a long family line of folks that never went to college. So some of it was based on prestige. But the truth is that most of everything that I learned in college, I use almost none of it in my day-to-day job. There's really nothing outside of one or two classes, and I was a mathematics major. So oftentimes mathematics is considered a technical degree, but most of it was theoretical mathematics. Very little of it is used in my IT job. I took one class on A+, which I consider to be basically everything I needed to know to start down a path of getting into IT. I had a logic and sets class where I learned about some, logic gates and and or and things like that, but it was only maybe a couple of the lessons out of the whole class that really mattered. So really one class out of my entire college career, very expensive college degree, and there was really only one class that made a difference. I think college is an expensive prospect for people, and maybe you have some family reasons or personal reasons or things like that, but it's not a great way to get into the field of IT. Now, for some people, it is the right path. Maybe you're just graduating from high school, you have a scholarship to go to a university or a college, and you're going to get a degree in computer systems. You're going to get a CS degree, or you're going to get a degree in programming, and that's all paid for through some kind of scholarship or things like that. In that case, it may make sense to go to college, or certainly if you're young and looking into getting into advanced electrical engineering or computer systems engineering or mechanical engineering, any of these kinds of advanced degrees, it's pretty much required that you go to college for that. If you want to design CPU architecture and work it ARM or NVIDIA or in Intel, you're going to need to not just go to college and get a bachelor's, you're going to need an advanced degree, a graduate level degree to be able to do that. That's my basic case I'm going to lay out for why you might choose a boot camp over college. Boot camp is really well situated for someone who maybe has already graduated years ago or is not going to college. You have a job and you're looking to switch roles, get into a cloud role from your current existing role, whatever you've chosen, and you're not looking to go, you can't go back to college and dedicate your life to that. Maybe you have to have a job. You've got other, responsibilities that would prohibit you from going to college, and it's very expensive. So you don't want to spend the money or take on the debt to do that. Another argument, of course, is that why would you need to go? Do you need to go to a boot camp at all? Can't you just learn this on your own? And sure, that's true. If you are the type of person who has a personality where you have all the motivation and all the ambition to do it completely on your own, you can. It is possible to, without going through a boot camp or going through any kind of program, to watch the videos on YouTube, study and learn, and go through the process that you would be led through in a boot camp and do it on your own and spend your own time coming up with your own curriculum, and align your goals around the same kind of goals that a boot camp would: getting certified, networking, building a community, and eventually getting a job. So it's 100% doable. Many, if not most, of the folks that I've worked with in IT, a lot of them did not have a degree in computer systems. They came into the tech field from another field. And so you see that with me. I started out as a mathematics teacher. I took an A+ class. I learned to build computers. I was always interested in technology. And I ended up getting some roles in IT that worked their way into cloud roles eventually. But I did not start with a CS degree, and I didn't go to any boot camps. So it is possible to make that transition. You have to understand your own personality. Are you the type of person who is going to push yourself to aggressively get through the content, to learn who is going to be your source of accountability? Is that going to be yourself or someone else? How are you going to build that community that's going to help you find that first role? You're taking a lot of that work on yourself when you decide not to go through some kind of program, whether through a university or a boot camp. And if you go into a gym in January, it's packed, and in February it's empty. And so you know that a lot of people will have every intention of learning all of this on their own, but they'll walk away as soon as the going gets tough. That's one of the things that really the boot camps provide, is the structure and the community and a lot of that support system and accountability to help you get through a program, to learn what you need to learn, and help you come out on the other side with a role in cloud, which is really what your goal is. Your goal is to learn what you need to know to get to that point to where you can be successful, to get your first role and start your cloud career on the right foot. And so I'm gonna go through a lot of stuff that I think you can use to evaluate if a boot camp is good or a boot camp is bad. I'm gonna go through 10 of those boot camp, what I would call red flags. I'll talk through each one of those and a little bit about that. I will say, of course, there's probably good boot camps that have some of these red flags. There might be a bad boot camp that doesn't have any of these red flags. This is really a way for you to start evaluating whether a boot camp is right for you or not, and some things to watch out for so that you can be better educated about boot camps and the things you need to think about when you're considering signing up for one. And really, the big thing to remember is caveat emptor. You need to take your time to evaluate the programs very closely before spending your hard-earned money. Regardless of what you decide, whether you decide with one boot camp or another, I want you to be successful in your journey into IT, and I don't want you to get taken advantage of or waste your money, because that's going to give you even if cloud and IT is right for you, if you have a bad experience with a boot camp, it's going to set you back even farther. It's going to be so much harder for you to get beyond that and continue the process to get into cloud. So do your research, buyer beware. All right, enough with that, and let's talk about getting into the top 10 bootcamp red flags. Flag number 1, if they have a non-existent or a bad syllabus. So when you're looking at a boot camp, you should be able to look at the syllabus of what you're going to learn. It shouldn't be a mystery. There really is no secret sauce here in what you're going to learn. You should be able to know and understand what it is they're going to take you through as far as the coursework is concerned. So you want to take a look at the syllabus. What is their goal in the class? Are they trying to get you to a AWS developer cert? Is the goal to get you to the AWS solution architecture cert or some other cert? Are you going to be going through training like Udemy or a cloud guru? What are the classes going to be like? How often are they going to be? You need to understand what is the coursework going to look like, the homework, the discussions, and understand how that fits with your lifestyle, whether or not that's related to your goals. You don't want to sign up for a boot camp that has a different destination than what you're trying to get to. So the first thing you want to look at is the syllabus and the coursework and understand what that's going to look like. The number 2 boot camp red flag is unrealistic promises. Okay, so no boot camp ad should sound like a crypto get rich quick scheme. Okay, there's nothing you can learn in 6 weeks that's going to get you a job making 6 figures. Okay, you need to be very careful when you're listening to any kind of advertisement about a boot camp that sounds overly optimistic or 100% success guarantees, things like that. A boot camp should be hard work, and a lot of people are not going to make it through to the end. And if they're not being transparent about that fact, then you need to be careful. Now, of course, everybody in advertising makes things sound rosy. That's okay. I'm sure that there are a lot of successful people that are coming out of the boot camp, and we'll talk about them in a minute. You'll just want to be careful about if the promises of the boot camp sound unrealistic. Okay, you just want to be very careful about that. Bootcamp red flag number 3 is inexperienced trainers. So on the website for the bootcamp, you should be able to find out more about the folks that are going to be leading the training, leading the classes that you're going to be a part of. And you should be able to look up information about those trainers. They should be highly credentialed, and they should also probably be producing other content on social media that you can review. These folks that are going to be your trainers, you're going to be spending a lot of time learning from them. So you'll want to try to get as familiar with their teaching style and kind of their approach. Watching their content on social media will give you an idea of how they approach education. You want to look them up on LinkedIn and see where they've worked before, what certifications do they have, and make sure that they're not just putting someone in front of you that doesn't have the training and experience to be able to give you a real view of what the job is going to look like and understand the technology and answer those questions for you. Bootcamp red flag number 4 is bad graduation rates. So if a boot camp has poor graduation rates, it could be a red flag. Are people dropping out because the content isn't valuable? Are they signing people up that aren't a good fit for this content or perhaps aren't ready to start a boot camp? Are they tracking folks who are going through the boot camp and helping them through the process? Are they just throwing people in the deep end and leaving them out on their own? Or are they really kind of ushering folks through the process? And so you should be asking questions about what their graduation rate is so you understand how many people that start this program are going to finish this program. If they're unwilling to give you graduation rates, that's a little bit of a red flag too. Maybe they're not tracking. If they're not tracking how many of their people fail out of the system, then maybe they're not keeping an eye on their students well enough to know what the success rates of those people are. Now, the flip side to this, of course, is that the current dropout rate in the US for colleges is 40%. So dropout rates are pretty high. People, as I mentioned previously, right? People sign up for the gym in January, they're gone by February. People will sign up for these boot camps, they'll get into it, they'll realize they're too busy for this, they hadn't expected the amount of work. Because it is a boot camp, it's a lot of work, and they drop out. So that's a normal part of any of these kinds of programs. People are going to sign up and drop out. It is what it is. But you should understand that if the graduation rate's 50%, if it's 40%, you need to kind of take a look at that and ask questions about why is their graduation rate what it is, and understand more about the program before you lay out significant funds to be a part of that program. Red flag number 5 is no placement assistance. Okay, a good boot camp will likely have connections in the community, in the business community, and should help you to find a role. So you'll want to ask questions about placement rates and their connections to the community. You can ask them, how do they help their graduates find roles after completing the program, and ask for a lot of information about what happens after I graduate. How are you going to help folks find a role? What business connections do you have to help find roles at the end of the boot camp? As you can imagine, a good boot camp that is putting out quality graduates will necessarily have relationships with businesses that are looking to hire quality candidates, right? A boot camp graduate will likely be less expensive to a customer, to a customer or client, a business that's looking to hire junior folks would look at a boot camp graduate of junior folks as a great pool of people to hire, because they will be coming in necessarily less expensive than maybe a college graduate or something at that level, or someone who has more experience, right? This is a way to hire people that have less experience. They'll be less expensive, but this is their first role, so they're going to get a lot of good experience and training at that first company. So businesses should be interested in hiring good graduates. So you'll want this boot camp that you're a part of to have those relationships, and you should try to learn about those beforehand. Red flag number 6 is no community. A good boot camp will have a community of folks of varying experience that you can tap on the shoulder for advice and help. Is there a Slack community with all of the previous graduates and the folks that are in the program now? Maybe folks that have previously graduated, now they've gone off, they found a role, they're 1 year into their role, 2 years into their role. Is there a Discord or some other community that they're building? Are they doing meetups, local meetups? Boot camp might be centered around a city center or something like that. It might be doing regular meetups or live events. It's a great opportunity for you to network with people and build that community. Community is going to be so important for that first role and your growth as you start your role, your first role in cloud. Your cloud career at the very beginning is going to be there's going to be a lot of struggle and a lot of growth. And so you're going to need a good community to rely on, to ask questions to understand, I'm looking at this role. Has anyone touched this technology? What are the things I need to think about for this other kind of role? Or does anybody know anyone at this company that could be a referral for me? Things like that. So having no community is a big red flag. You're going to miss out on a lot of the most important parts of what you need to be successful at the beginning of your career. Red flag number 7 is references. So I would say no references, but I think you get the point. And don't ask the boot camp for references. Go out and do some research. Most boot camps, folks on LinkedIn, and you'll hear me reference LinkedIn a lot. You need to be on LinkedIn. You can connect with the boot camp. You should see people putting the boot camp in their tagline or talking about the boot camp or referencing it. There should be some tags or some hashtags that you could follow to see people posting. You want to find people that graduated from the boot camp and that have found a job, and just reach out, connect with them on LinkedIn. Make a point of reaching out, connecting with these folks. They're going to be interested in networking, because networking is so important to finding that role. And you can reach out and ask for the real deal. Tell me about the boot camp. What did you like? What didn't you like? Was it worth the money? What is your overall feeling? And just go out and find those references. Don't, the boot camps are going to send you to people they know are going to tell you just the good stuff. But you really want to get the good and the bad, because there's going to be bad. Nobody's perfect. There's going to be some bad. There's going to be some good. Oh, the classes were great, but they were long. Oh, I didn't like classes on Saturday, but they had great placement assistance. Things like that. Those are the things you've got to figure out what matters to you and what doesn't. And finding those references are critically important to asking people their real opinion about the boot camp and getting the real information about that. Okay, red flag number 7 is negative reports. There's likely going to be, and here's the truth. Like, if you look at any product, you go on Yelp, you looked at your favorite restaurant on Yelp, there are going to be people there that are 1-starring it and complaining about something or another, right? I think we all get that in general, there's always going to be negative reports, but you want to look and see, like, what is the overall vibe of what people are saying about the boot camp. And looking at any kind of negative reports, is there some common thread? And when you're looking at these kinds of reviews or anything about the boot camp, there's going to be people that sign up and drop out. Like we talked about that earlier, bad graduation rates. There are a lot of people that are going to sign up and drop out for one reason or another. They'll complain because it's hard for a person who drops out from something to believe it's their fault that they dropped out. So they're going to go online and say, oh, the teachers were not good, or whatever they're going to say. That people are going to drop out and give a bad review, but you really want to look at the overall feeling and theme of the boot camp's reviews. Does it look like there's way more negative than positive? And when you take that information along with the references that you got from red flag number 7, you should be able to build a pretty good idea of what the pros and cons of a particular boot camp are. All right, red flag number 9 is no hands-on projects. I talked earlier about boot camps are not just training, and some folks will try to get away with calling a training a boot camp. They will just purposefully mix the lingo around that to kind of give this idea that there's more than training, right? You need to be doing hands-on projects that are guided by the teachers, led by the teachers, checked by the instructors. And so you should be, you probably, at this point, you should have already be following and connected to a bunch of people who have gone through a particular boot camp. At this point, you're probably more serious about a particular boot camp. You need to look and see what kind of projects are those folks doing. They should be posting on LinkedIn. They should be posting on Medium or some other platform about the projects they're doing. You want to look at the projects. Are they simple? Are they complicated? Do they look involved and challenging? Are these projects the kinds of things you would want to do for a living, right? This will be a good view into kind of what the boot camp thinks your job might be like. So are they building 3-tier architectures in Terraform, and it's, load balancers are configured and websites are stood up. There's a database in the back end. What are they building? What are they learning? Is it DevOps? Is there DevOps involved? Infrastructure as code? And you're looking at these hands-on projects. You want to make sure that the folks that are going through this program are taking part in hands-on projects. These are going to be vitally important to make sure that you're not just going through a training video. You've got to have hands-on projects so that when you get into the interview, you're able to talk intelligently about the work you've done with these services in the cloud of your choice. And red flag number 10 is unreasonable payments or pricing, right? So I think everyone kind of has this idea. Boot camps can be moderately expensive. They can be very expensive. And how do you tell if the price is too high or too low? right? If you think about the result, certainly they may paint a picture for you that you're going to be in the boot camp for 6 months. You're going to get a job making $1 million a year. So what does it matter if the boot camp is $50,000 or $20,000 or $5,000? So you have to learn to be able to judge whether a boot camp is too expensive or not based on what the style of the boot camp is. So how do you do that? One of the things you'll do is you take a look back at one of the beginning red flags is to look at the syllabus. Look at the number of classes, look at the timeline, look at the schedule of events, and then you're going to add all that up. And you think about an instructor's time, maybe it's $150 an hour. So you take $150 an hour as a base price. You think about the number of classes you're going to have per week, the number of scheduled events, the number of times you're going to get together for interview prep, and all of these kinds of things that are going to happen. With the syllabus, you should have a good understanding that. And so you think about a half-year program. So it's 26 weeks. If you met 2.5 hours a week for 26 weeks times $150 an hour, and that's just one individual, right? $150 an hour, that's about $10,000. Are you going to meet more than 2.5 hours a week? Is it a year-long program or a 9-month-long program, right? So you just start to think about how often are you going to meet? How often are instructors going to be engaged, right? Because even if you go to college, you only go to class 2 to 3 times a week, right? And it's 1 hour per class. And that's going to be over a semester, which is about 6 months, right? Probably less than 6 months. And so, you need to think about what that price is going to be, what it's going to cost. You're going to be expected to do work on your own time in between classes. But in order to try to figure out, is the price for this class good, you're going to take into account how often the class is meeting, the time, and then multiply it by a reasonable, time per hour, right? We don't want the boot camps instructors to be, starving or whatever. They have to make a living as well, right? So, $150 an hour, I think, is fair for instruction training. That's very highly technical and specific. And you can play around with those numbers however you want, but you can use those numbers to try to come up with what a reasonable price is. So if you think about that, you've already found out that they have a vibrant community with a lot of connections. They have good connections with business and placement assistance. They do additional interview training and things like that. Then you take a look at whatever the price is. You can use all of that information together to decide whether the price makes sense for you. Okay, that's it. That's my 10 red flags for boot camps. And again, as I said before, some boot camps may have one of these 10 or have some portion of those. They may be great. But you'll have to do the research yourself and try to find one. And you may ask me, Coin, what boot camp do you recommend? Is there a boot camp you recommend? And no, there isn't a boot camp I recommend, because at the end of the day, almost all of your IT career, right? This is the beginning of your IT career now. You're going to need to learn how to do the research. No one's going to give you the answer. And so I see a lot of boot camps. Some of them look great. I haven't looked into them and done the research, so I can't give you a real recommendation. You have to do the work. You're going to have to check them out. You're going to have to follow them on LinkedIn. You should, find some folks that graduated, see what they say. Do they have, and then talk to the folks that are running those. They should be willing to tell you basic information about the syllabus and placement rates and graduation rates and things like that. You compare that with the price and how often you're going to get. You should be able to build a concept for which boot camps work for you, which boot camps are not going to work for you, and pick the right one. That brings us to the end of the episode. Hope this information was helpful. Please connect with me on LinkedIn and check out the next episode. I think we'll be talking about interview preparation. Be sure to follow this podcast so you get alerts every time I upload. We'll see you soon.